Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Hello and welcome to Energy Outlook. My name is Choma Kalu and I am your host for tonight. And you see, we'll be diving into a conversation that affects every home and every business in the country. And that particular conversation has to do with the true cost of power in Nigeria. Now, as of November 2025, electricity in Nigeria remains both essential and elusive. Millions of Nigerians live in energy poverty, where connection to the grid does not guarantee reliable supply, and monthly bills drain already tight household budgets. Now, rising generation costs driven by inflation, currency fluctuation, and surging gas prices have outpaced, a tariff system that struggles to reflect the reality. Now, the Nigerian Independent System Operator warns that while cost-reflective tariffs are necessary for a sustainable power sector, abrupt increases without service improvements risk further burdening of vulnerable households. Now, they advocate for a gradual, deliberate transition combined with targeted measures like, lifeline tariffs and welfare-linked rebates to protect those most at risk. Now, the true cost of power in Nigeria is therefore more than financial. It is a daily struggle between keeping the lights on and keeping families afloat, highlighting the urgent need for a practical, a fair and forward-looking energy policy. Now, before we, proceed into this conversation, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we'll catch up, with the latest headlines and key developments shaping Africa's energy future. Please stay with us. You're welcome back. This is still the Energy Outlook, and here are some major stories driving the conversations around around Africa's energy landscape. And the first one we have, it says Lagos sets agenda for power infrastructure optimization under new decentralized system. And this story is from Business Day newspapers. And the story says Lagos state government and the organized private sector on Wednesday set out a joint pathway for strengthening electricity supply as the decentralization of Nigeria's power markets accelerates under the Electricity Act. Now, you see, at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry Power Sector Conference, stakeholders said the reforms have opened fresh opportunities for state-led solutions, but also exposed long-standing structural weaknesses that continue to undermine efficiency and across the value chain. Now, speaking at the event, Biodun Ogunleye, the Lagos Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, said the state is already implementing a decentralized market structure anchored on the Lagos Electricity Law, the Lagos State Electricity Regulatory Commission, and the Integrated Resource Plan. Now, the commissioner, who was represented by Ogunade Hamed, Chief Technical Officer, said Lagos is prioritizing infrastructure renewal, commercial sustainability, and coordinated regulation as it works to build an electricity market capable of supporting industrial expansion. Now, moving on to our second story, it says, despite capacity of 13,625 megawatts, only 3,781 megawatts of electricity gets to consumers. And this story was published by the Daily Trust newspapers. And it says, as Nigeria continues to battle inadequate supply of electricity to power homes and businesses, over 8,000 megawatts of electricity lay idle in workshops of the 28 electricity generation companies that are connected to the national grid. Now, according to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEC, Nigeria's 28 electricity power plants have a combined capacity to produce 13,625 megawatts electricity. But due to some challenges, an average of 5,395.72 megawatts is produced per hour. Now, despite the little generation for a country that is stated to need over 30,000 megawatts to meet its economy and population of over 200 million, only 3,781.94 megawatts reach homes and industries owing to the inefficiency on the transmission lines and distribution companies. Now, for instance, an average of 9% of electricity generated on the grid does not get to the distribution companies in the first half of the 2025, while DISCOs rejected an average of 191.49 megawatts worth of electricity hourly in the first quarter of 2025 and 79.59 megawatts in the second quarter. I mean, the margin is actually really far apart, but we're going to move on to the next story because of our time. The third story says government debt threatens fuel supply. And this story was published by the Punch newspaper. And it reads, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has accused the Nigerian midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authorities of failing to clear long-standing debt inherited from defunct Petroleum Equalization Fund, warning that any further delays could trigger disruptions in fuel supply. Now, proceedings from a meeting of IPMAN's National Executive Council in Abuja, obtained by the correspondent on Wednesday, showed that the association expressed frustration over what it describes as the NMDPRA's unfulfilled promises to settle verified claims owed its members for over 3 years. Now, the national president of IPMAN, Abubakar Maigandi, said the association had exercised patience beyond reasonable limits, recalling that it suspended an earlier planned strike following assurances from the regulator that payments would be made promptly. Maigandi said it is nevertheless sad to note that the NMDPRA has refused to heed her promise to offset the debt owed to our members from the defunct Petroleum Equalization Fund. It is no longer news that we have patiently engaged the management of NMDPRA for over 3 years for them to offset this debt. He said, in our last ultimatum, we were pressured by highly placed Nigerians to call off our threats to embark on a strike, after which the NMDPRA promised to clear the backlog in a short period. However, up until this moment, the majority of our members have yet to receive their payments. What's with Nigeria and this trend of, promising and not fulfilling? This is the same thing that we're seeing with ASU, federal government and ASU. Now we're seeing it now with IPMAN and the NMDPRA. Anyway, moving on to our fourth story. It says Nigeria hits 1.7 million barrels per day oil production multiple times, NUPRC says. And this was published by the Vanguard newspaper. And the story reads, the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, said the nation's oil output has exceeded 1.7 million barrels per day several times this year. Now, the chief executive of the commission, Engineer Benga Komolafe, disclosed this at the capacity building training for journalists in Lagos yesterday. He also said Nigeria's rig count and index for measuring upstream activities also improved, while final investment decisions, the FIDs, valued in billions of dollars, have been taken and within the last 10 months. He said, our rig count has risen to nearly 70, with over 40 rigs active. Now, final investment decisions valued in billions of dollars have been taken, and within the last 10 months, we have approved field development plans worth approximately $20 billion. Now, accordingly, this year alone, Nigeria's daily crude oil production has on multiple occasions exceeded 1.7 million barrels per day, demonstrating our capacity to surpass OPEC targets. Our rig count has risen to nearly 70, with over 40 rigs active. Final investment decision valued in billions of dollars, of course, have been taken within the last 10 months. And of course, also like he said, the FDPs worth over this. Now, I think I like the figure, the $20 billion. Looking at this, I think this is a good step in the right direction, right? So I commend them, but I also want to say we're not relenting. These numbers are good, but we can actually do more. All right, so that's all the news we can take right now. We will be spotlighting our conversation. Like I said earlier, we'll be spotlighting on power, and we want to know the true cost of power in Nigeria, especially right now in 2025. All right, and we're going to get into that. Of course, I have a guest waiting, but then we'll go on a short break. When I come back, I'll introduce my guest and we'll get into the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, like I said earlier, we are talking about what power costs is really for us here in Nigeria. And joining me to unpack the details, I have Gabriel Gagara, Mango Manager at KPMG. And please, I want us all of us in this conversation to pay attention, because the insights in this conversation, it could actually change the way we think about energy, about innovation, and of course about economic growth. So just pay attention, okay? Welcome, Mr. Gabriel, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Great. Let's get right into it. So what are the cost-reflective tariffs, and why are they considered essential for Nigeria's electricity sector?
That's the right way to start. Now, when you look at cost-reflective tariff, it simply means the true cost of generating, transmitting, and distributing electricity, right? Okay. In terms of the real cost of distributing power to households. It also ensures, a cost-reflective tariff ensures that the key players in the sectors recover their cost of operations and a reasonable amount of return, right, for their investment. Now, why is it essential? It's essential because a cost-reflective tariff attract investors into the system. If an investor sees it is a clear roadmap of recovery of my investment, I want to be part of the sector, right? The cost-reflective, what it does is it encourage more investment from key players. So the GenCos, the transmission, now they're being separated from NISO, and the distribution component guys. If they see clarity, if the tariff is predictable, they'll be able to go for loans to invest in the system, right? So it provides clarity for everyone in the market, and it ensures sustainability. So it's essential in every aspect of the conversation. Cost-reflective tariff, it gives a bit of comfort for foreigners to come in and also invest in the system, because there's a clear path for recovery along the way.
How would you explain this to a layman? That that market woman selling tomatoes in the market, or that farmer in the village that needs lights, but he doesn't understand, what he's paying for and all of that. How would you explain that, sir?
So let's use the analogy of an orange,
Okay.
right? So I go to the farm, I buy oranges from the farmer, right? I transport it to Abuja, right? And I sell it to you. Cost-effective tariff is saying the cost of buying it from the farmer, the cost of transporting it to Abuja, the cost related to selling it to you, and a reasonable margin, which I could say the risks of going into this investment, I should be able to recover it. Because if I'm going to recover the cost of buying it, the cost of transporting it, and the cost of giving it to you alone, why am I in the business? I should be able to have a reasonable margin for myself to encourage me to continue the transaction. Right? So let's look at it from the point of from the farm to the transportation means and the related cost to taking it to your house. Those are what we call cost-effective tariff. The cost of selling it to you should incorporate every component of this.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that explanation because it makes more sense. You know, we right here we want to break it down as much as we can for the audience to actually have a grip of what the conversation is about. But thank you for doing that. Now, in what ways have inflation, you know, unemployment and currency volatility affected Nigerians' ability to pay their electricity bills?
Simple. What inflation does, it reduces your disposable income, right? What unemployment does is it cuts your earning, right?
Right.
So, and the fact about this is why the inflation reduces your disposable income to pay bills, or the unemployment cutting your earnings. Same with the currency volatility affecting your disposable income to pay bills. The tariff also increases. Because some of the key metrics in the tariff, in projection of the tariff, are the inflation, impact of inflation and currency on the gas price. So you can see what happens. So disposable income is dropping and tariff is also increasing. So definitely this component affects your ability to pay, which then drives and the sector, when it comes to tariff payment, we look at two components, ability to pay and willingness to pay. When you don't have the ability to pay, you're bound to, let me not use the word bound. It increases the urge for energy theft and meter bypass.
Okay.
But definitely this key component affects one's ability to pay their bills.
I mean, I have a question about the meter bypass, but before then, right, I want to find out how and why, rather, is a gradual phased approach to tariff adjustments, you know, often preferred over the sudden hikes. Why do you think that is?
Affordability.
How so?
Because those are things that makes so two things direct the market, which are the dreams for every electric sector. Ability to merge affordability and sustainability of the sector. All right. Because if the customer can't pay the bills, like I said earlier, there's this urge of energy bypass. That's why you see illegal connections.
Right.
So one of the reasons why there's need to face is to also make the tariff affordable. And it's not that there's no one size fits all in terms of the conversation. Because I'll give you an example. If I take money from the bank and I invest in the sector, and that investment will result to a higher tariff, shouldn't I earn it at that point? Because the bank is asking for their money.
Right.
Why do you have to face it? What will be the impact on my repayment? Right. Also, the thinking that's for the spike of the tariff at a particular time. The other way is the understanding is if you invest now in expanding the system, for instance, there's the thought process of flow of energy. So more energy will be delivered. Now, economic of scale then comes into say the more you sell, the lower the tariffs. Right. So the idea of facing it out is, see, we've done this investment. was sure that as we invest, the network expands. Let's stabilize the tariff and you recover upfront when economic of scale kicks in, when we're able to sell more and the tariff is able to kind of take in some of these investment costs, but not necessarily putting a burden for the consumer at that point in time. So yes, I align with it because if I'm investing, the expectation is I should sell more.
Yeah.
And these are procedure. Countries practices like Egypt is about putting in the money, investing more to sell more for the tariff to be able to accommodate it. Yes, so the phasing approach is also a way to look at this thing. The other angle is the one I mentioned of the bank burden on you.
Right.
Right. But the sector is a funny sector. I can tell you that. The sector is a funny sector, right?
I
But
like
yeah,
the way you put it.
but right, to hit it, I think the first approach is to ensure affordability, because if the consumer can't afford it, it's a cycle. If the consumer can't afford it, a result to energy theft, result to meter bypass, illegal connection, which ultimately affect your collection losses within the system. And once your collection losses are impacted, it's the value, the sustainability within the value chain is no longer there in terms of financial sustainability because there's no more cash flow, right? So yes, that first approach is to help manage the system to ensure that the losses are reduced and also help with the energy asset expansion. Affordability is key, right? To ensure that everybody is able to afford energy at a particular time. So yes, affordability is the reason why we do some of these phases at a time.
Interesting. Let's go back to cost-reflective tariffs now. So how can cost-reflective tariffs attract investments and strengthen our financial stability in the electricity market now?
I want to
like
be
the
as
way you're
lean
thinking about
as
it.
possible. Yeah. I want to be so that the layman, like you said, the layman understand.
Yeah.
If you're investing, what are your expectations to recover your costs and your return on investment?
Right.
And like I earlier said, the tariff is there's cost-reflective tariff. What it means is the true cost of generating, transmitting, and distributing power. It ensures that every key player ends or gets or recover their cost of operations and reasonable investment. So what the cost tariff does is it speaks to predictable revenue in the system. When an investor sees clarity, if the discos, for instance, if the Gencos or the disco or key players in the sector are able to recover their cost of operation and a reasonable amount of return, they are incentivized to invest more. Right? So it brings in investment into the sector. Right? And the other thing it does is when you have a tariff that is cost reflective, the financier are able to come in because at this point there's clarity on your tariffs being able to cover for the debt services, the cost of the debt and the rest. So you see projects being bankable. Currently, in the current system now, you hardly see a bankable project in the sector, except is let me use the word. I'm being careful. Except is a ring-fence environment, where, for instance, I pick an area in Abuja and said, I want to supply this power to them, and we agree on the cost of the tariff to be 250. I'm sure of my collection and everything, and I will fence that area. Right? That's where you see a bankable project most of the times. And that lack of cost-reflective tariff, that lack of clarity in terms of regulatory uncertainty when it comes to tariff, is what is keeping the investors away from coming into the sector. So what cost-reflective tariff will do is it will attract investment. It will also help reduce the government intervention in the sector in terms of subsidy. Right? Now, giving the IPP guys and foreign investors an opportunity to come in, because now there's clarity, and I will use the word revenue assurance.
Right.
To recover your investment costs and also your cost of operations.
Okay.
So it makes the market sustainable at that point.
Okay. before we go on a break, I just want to ask you this question. Now, Nigeria has a decentralized electricity market under the new Electricity Act now, right?
Yeah.
What structural weaknesses could limit the ability of states like Lagos to truly run independent and efficient markets?
So it's a struggle to answer that because you picked Lagos.
Okay,
Because
forget
you
I
picked Lagos.
mentioned,
But it's
I
fine.
forget I
It's
mentioned
fine.
Lagos.
No, it's fine. We go with
Okay.
Lagos. We go with Lagos, right? So the sector is to an extent is a learning curve,
Right.
right? I don't want to speak to the structural differences that you mentioned, but also I'll focus on more like areas of improvement, things that need to be done to ensure that, because at the end of the day, the objective is to make the market efficient, right? The objective is to ensure a win-win for every key player in the sector, including the customers, right? So the question is, what are those initiatives? What are those policies? What are those orders? What are those activities we need to do to protect both the consumer, the investors, and the current players to ensure a sustainable market, right?
Right.
Now, with the case of Lagos, Lagos consume, as a state, consume an average of, not to shy away from numbers, but a certain amount, a significant amount of energy compared to other states in the country. Now, and it has two discos, two well-performing discos, right? That operate within the state. Now, what that does is there is a market in Lagos State, right? An investor can walk into, and the loss level in Lagos is within 20% or less, right? Not to put numbers to that, but within the average. What that tells you is there's a sense of cash flow, a bit of a guaranteed cash flow within that space, right? Now, what the regulator would do is to ensure that in terms of cost-effective tariffs, setting up of tariffs, in terms of making the environment friendly, in terms of regulatory-wise, in terms of ensuring that investors have confidence within the market. Now, how would they do that? One, they have to be, the orders they're putting out has to be friendly in terms of friendly regulatory issues. Well, friendly regulatory orders. When I mean friendly regulatory orders, during some years back, where we had ANET, NEC, and the discourse back and forth with the regulators, it was assumed that the regulators were against the discourse. And there was a bit of back and forth in that. So you see when NEC make an order, the discourse are fighting back, but we've gone past that. Now, what happens is before an order is issued, there are stakeholder engagement, there are conversation on how to go about it, and there are feedback. Now, those are kind of activities that should happen in Lagos. Stakeholder engagement is key. Bringing everybody in the room, having a conversation, and what do we need to do to make the market efficient? Holding everybody accountable, right? So I would say that accountability is key in making the market efficient in Lagos State. Because like I said, this market, the demand in Lagos is high. The opportunity to invest is high. The question is, how do we ensure that the market is investment friendly? How do we ensure that key players within the sector, including the customers, are being protected? How do we ensure that the market is attractive to both internal and external investors, right? So those are some of the things we need to look at and we need to put in place to ensure that the market, or the electricity market for that one, because like you know, what has happened in the Electricity Act is the discos have created subsidiaries, right, to operate within Lagos State. And the Lagos State electricity law is also out long ago. They established that. So the question, what are those adjustments that we need to do? What are those shifts? What are those issues that the Electricity Act had created, or let me use the word created? What are those implications of the Electricity Act and the Lagos State law that can be addressed to ensure that the market is friendly? So for me, areas of improvement we just brought through the sense of making the market friendly for investors, ensuring that everybody is responsible, accountability is key, and also institutional training, right? To ensure that in the last one we spoke about affordability and sustainability is being achieved within the market.
Right. Okay, so we'll go on a very short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Please stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement lives a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
All right, welcome back. This is still the Energy Outlook, and we're still discussing the cost of power in Nigeria. And I have my guest, Gabriel Gagara, the Mango Manager at KPMG, who is, of course, sharing his expert insights on this particular issue. Mr. Gagara, are you still with us? Great.
I'm here. Yes, I'm with you.
All right. So let's continue. Let's talk meter bypassing, right? We all know the implications of this bypass and what it does to us. So I want to ask, we know, like I said, we know what it does. I mean, the electricity theft and all. But beyond punitive measures, what behavioral, technological, or even economical incentives are needed to curb this trend sustainably? Because the more you talk about it, it seems the more you talk about it, the more it's happening. So what can we do in all aspects to actually curb the trend?
So during my time and the discourse, and one of the discourse, we noticed that the two areas, almost the same level of consumption, but one is heavily metered in terms of more like 80%, and it turns out that the collection from the unmetered area was far more than the collection from the metered area. And we went in to check, and we noticed that over 40 or 50% are meter bypass.
Wow.
Now, the story out there is give us meter, right? Everybody wants meter. Everybody wants to be metered to avoid estimated billing. Good to have. Those with postpaid meters are also saying give us prepaid meter, the analog meters of them when you go to read meters and come back.
Yeah.
And all that. Now, like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to tariff or when it comes to issues like that in terms of collection, payment, and tariff and the rest, two things are key. One's the ability to pay and one willingness to pay. Right? I will notice that even those that had the ability to pay, they were unwilling to pay, which is also an issue. Now, the general issue, I've been in conferences and I hear people speak, and one thing I've always stressed is, see, customer payment indiscipline is one of the key factors affecting the power sector.
Right. I like the way you put it. Yes.
I'm a customer too, right? That payment indiscipline. The the way it works is a simple analogy is power flows this way. The expectation is the value of that power flow this other way. Terms of monetary term. That's what makes the sector works. So I come to your environment, I invest within power. I should be able to recover, even though it's an hour. Right? So at this point, it's not about sufficiency, it's about recovering that which I've given you. Now, that's the issue with the system. Those who are unwilling to pay are hiding on the concept that the power is not reliable, is not available. You gave us 4 hours, you gave us 5 hours. But the question is, can you pay for the 5 hours? Because if you pay for the 5 hours, I'm able to invest more for you to have 10 hours. I'm able to invest more for you to have 14 hours. But if you don't pay for the 5 hours, I can't invest. I can't even pay back the GenCos for the 5 hours from a disco perspective. For me to then invest for you to have 10 hours. So what that means is you continue being on that 5 hours because I see no clarity in terms of cash return for me to invest in your area. Right? Now the question of what do we need to do? I might throw it back to you because I can tell you to a large extent, right? So we started from estimated billing, and everybody needs a meter, we've given the meter, and people are bypassing. What happened elsewhere is bypassing is being criminalized.
I actually think it should be criminalized.
It is. The act says it. You should be sentenced for that. You should pay a fine for that. So the question is, we have everything, but the implementation is the issue, right? So the story is now let's go into smart meters.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is the market buoyant enough to invest on smart meters? Looking at the market where ETCN sits between 40 to 45%, are we buoyant enough to invest in smart meters? We're not, right? There's a conversation of putting in meters at the pole, right? To ensure people don't bypass it. But people who purchase their meter will tell you where they want their meter to be. In other countries, for example, Portugal and the rest, you see meters at the fence or outside, accessible, right? So for me, I think to curb this issue, there is a need to be a bit strict in terms of penalizing energy theft, realistically, not just talking it, right? There's a law that criminalizes it. We should implement it. We should implement it. Because people see bypassing of meters as a norm. And what happens is it's a cycle. It affects the economy in general because the discos are unable to get the money. And then that's they are unable to pay the GenCos or the transmission guys, right? And the GenCos are unable to pay the gas guys. And it's a problem across the value chain. And power becomes, and nobody's investing in the power, and we're complaining that there's no power. Meanwhile, on our own part, we're not fulfilling our own commitment or our own expectations. Right? So for me, I think that need to implement the criminalization of electricity theft is key. Because I've given you had complainers, you don't have meters. I've given you meters, and now you're bypassing it. So what should I do? If I give you smart meters, you'll do the same thing.
Of course.
You get my point? So if I put meters, I can put meters on the feeders to know the energy is going to a particular area. I put meters on the DTs to know the energy is going to a particular street or close. Then I then put meters in your house. That creates a lot of investment, which you're not encouraging me to do.
Right.
Right. So we need to be truthful to ourselves and say, see, guys, we have to implement that aspect of criminalizing it, penalizing people. If it means sending them to 6 months, I'm sorry for using that. You know, community service, right? We need to think that way also. Because we need to change the mindset of consumers. We need to ensure that payment discipline is inside in everyone. Because that's the only way the sector can work.
Right. I mean, I like that you mentioned, in fact, I like that we have expert conversations on these issues because as Nigerians, most of us want to think that it's just those at the helm of affairs that have the issue. But like you rightly mentioned, it's a two-way street. You do your part, we do our part, and then you have power as much as you want. But then moving forward, right, we've seen some discos, you know, rejecting load and all of that. Okay, what accountability measures should regulators enforce to ensure that that doesn't happen? You know, to ensure that discos now don't continue to reject load and neglect infrastructure or delay service improvements generally.
So let me speak from two angles to it.
Okay.
Let me not be biased.
Okay.
Let me speak as an audience and also as a player within this the disco space.
Yeah.
If you're a paying customer, will I stop supplying power?
No, you wouldn't.
Why would I want to reject power if you're a paying customer? Because my revenue is per kilowatt. So the more you consume, the more I get. So I have no reason, if you're a paying customer, for me to reject load. Right? And the conversation of rejecting of load, look at it from the other side. Disco are actually penalized. And then by the regulator, there's what we call loss of revenue. So at a trading point between TCN and the disco, they nominate energy. Right? Now, if the disco nominates based on the feeders, if it's the band A, the band B feeder, and all and those feeders, the categorization of band A, band B, sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's purely commercial. Right? So the technical has to do with the substation at that point. So I nominate. And if we would nominate at, there's what we call the, I can't remember it now, but both TCN and Disco nominate. Now, if TCN sends power and Disco don't take that power, they pay what we call loss of revenue. Right? And if the Disco's offtake for the period is, for instance, 15%, and they take 14%, they pay what we call liquidated damages.
Okay.
Right? Now, what they also pay is, if a disco is committed to 15%, for instance, and it takes 4, the generation cost is being grouped into energy cost and capacity cost. Okay. Right? Capacity cost is what you're obligated to take. I'm obligated to take 15%. Energy cost is the energy I took for that period. Right? Now, if I don't take up to 15%, I still pay capacity cost for 15%. So both ways, discos have been penalized. Right? So discos are actually penalized. But the reality of the whole thing is, if I have a paying customer, I have no reason to reject load.
Okay.
And that's why we go back to the fact that, see, payment indiscipline in the sector is one of the key things why the sector is where it is. And that's why you see investors wanting to shying away from it. You see government coming with intervention, which is, I know you're aware of the 4 trillion naira federal government implementation support debts, right? So it results to compounding debt. So the more I give you energy, the more you don't pay, the more my debts are mounting.
Right.
Am I in the business of increasing debt or in the business of So we need to look at it both ways, honestly. Right.
I understand that. Anyway, finally, on my end, how might a well-managed, socially balanced tariff system, of course, transform Nigeria's power sector in the long term? What are we looking at?
So I'll look at it from the economic and the social perspective.
Okay.
From the economic perspective, it will ensure guarantee of investment, right, which will then attract investors. It makes the system more attractive, right? I could call it investment magnet, right?
Okay.
It also ensures sustainability, financial sustainability in the system, giving government the ability to kind of divert some of its intervention to other sectors. The 4 trillion, the subsidy support and everything, those can be moved to other sectors of the economy, right? It also allows for grid expansion, right? If the system is if the tariff is cost reflective, the existing players are able to recover their true cost of investment. There's an incentive to expand the grid. There's an opportunity to get to underserved rural areas and peri-rural areas, right? So what it does is, I would say it improves the network, right? When I say improve the network, is it it creates a sense of energy expansion across board, right? To meet underserved areas, energy access, and the rest. It also gives government opportunity to push some of its intervention to other areas. It also brings in investors into the system. It makes it and improves service delivery, right? Because if the sector is working and we're able to ensure the tariff are cost reflective, who have supply? And so what supply does is it reduces cost of production for manufacturing guys, right? Because power from the grid is always mostly cheaper than diesel and gas, and gas, right? It also, now, when service delivery is improved, it improves the standard of living, right? So for me, those are some of the transformative change we'll see if we're able to manage distance.
Is there like a particular reform you're looking forward to, or something you think once we implement this particular one, the sector is going to see an overhaul?
Customer payment discipline.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'll be frank with you, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, energy comes this way. The value of the energy monetary term should come this way.
Right.
So if you ask me to invest in a particular area, one of the things two things I will look at: the demand and the loss level.
Okay.
The financier will look at that too, the demand and the loss level, right? Because those are the things that will drive the investment or the incentive to do the investment. If I'm putting in $1 billion and if I'm putting in $1 million, and every month end there are collection losses are caused by the mounting debt, I struggle to recover my cost of investment, right? There's no incentive to want to do more. And we can talk about infrastructure reform, we can talk about policy, we can talk all that, right? But liquidity is the key problem of the sector. And where is the liquidity coming from? It's coming from the guys consuming the power. Right? For how long will government keep intervening in the sector? So for me, is the key thing that needs to happen in the sector is our ability to change the consumer mindset to that payment, to eradicate payment indiscipline.
Right. Pay for services.
Pay for services. That's what makes it to work. Point the power sector in the world that has poor payment discipline and is doing well. None.
Sure.
So, because if you pay, even me, I can come to area and put a transformer now. Yes, now. If the most insecure environment in this world, in the country is paying their bills, I trust you, so an investor will still go and put in power there.
Right.
It's about payment, it's liquidity. The liquidity is not there, there's no incentive to trade.
Right. Anyway, I like the way you wrapped it up. Please bring transformer to my house. We pay for lights. But anyway, this is where we wrap up. Thank you so much, Mr. Gagara, for your beautiful insights. And we do hope to bring you on here next time for more conversations. Have a good evening. All right, as we wrap up, of course, it's been a very beautiful conversation, very insightful. So you've heard from him. If you don't pay for services, there's no way to. You don't have that moral and legal standing to actually demand more services, being given to you. So you pay, it's pay as you go, really. And I really do hope that more Nigerians get to embrace, you know, paying for services. Let's let go of that indiscipline, you know. And power is very crucial for us, you know, our homes, our businesses, for all of us in Nigeria. So when you pay for it, that is when you can now hold them accountable to, you know, give you what you have paid for. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And just before we wrap up, let's reflect on the words of engineer Abdul Bello Muhammad, the MD of NISO. He said the real question is not whether we should have cost-reflective tariffs, but how to achieve them in a way that preserves affordability and protects the most vulnerable among us. And, you know, the dialogue doesn't just end here. You know, it's something. Talk about it, create awareness on the need to actually pay for these things so that those in the vulnerable amongst us, you know, don't get to suffer for what you that can afford it and refuse to pay, you know, would have cost. Anyway, follow us on all our social media platforms. You can join the conversation and use the hashtag Energy Outlook show. And also for more thought-provoking discussions, you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Official Upgrade TV, and you're going to find lots and lots and lots of insightful content. My name is Chioma Kalu, and thank you all for joining me tonight. I hope you have a good weekend and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis